It has been a year since Stellar Blade release, and boy, what a release that was. Do you remember? There was a bit of discussion about the, let's say, design of the main character. IGN Friends famously put out a preview where they claimed that the creators of the game never saw a real woman or something. Since then, they have issued an apology for that statement, but at the time, in response, people have found photos of Stellar Blade's creative director's wife, as well as pictures of a real Korean model getting her body scanned. And if that wasn't enough, there were not one, but two whole videos by Maxim Korea throwing shade at people talking about unrealistic body types, and even presenting Asmon's video as part of a discussion. Apparently, the model scanned for Eve was one of theirs, and they just took it personally. You know you got a high-profile game on your hands when it's mentioned by an international men's magazine. All in all, it was wild. Here's the thing though. Everybody knows that this whole discussion happened around Eve's assets, right? Well, by focusing on that, we all have blinded ourselves to the truth. After spending some amount of time playing the game and carefully looking at all of Eve's outfits, I firmly believe that the most important part of Eve's design is the body cell on her back. Meaning, I disagree with pretty much 99% of all Stellar Blade players. Don't get me wrong, I am also touching myself while looking at her from behind. However, I am looking at this instead of this. We are not quite the same. Now, I don't want to sound like one of those Adeptus Mechanicus types.
The flesh is weak. Only the hard drive is sexy. Praise the Omnissiah.
I have stated my case, now I have to argue it. Which is not easy, because when you look at the game and discussions around it, there's like 3 or 4 levels of misdirection going on. To start, it is important to understand that discussions about Eve's design were not just expected. They were pretty much inevitable. A brief look at the history of sexy art is in order. Stellar Blade is made by Shift Up, Korean company previously famous for 2 gacha games, Destiny Child and Goddess of Victory Nike. Destiny Child I have not played at all. Nike I played like 1 chapter. So I personally do not know much about them. But Nike seems to be pretty famous in the general gacha community due to its design. These days, Nike is used as a sort of a platinum standard to measure the lewdness of other gacha games. Like how Azur Lane is about as lewd as maybe 2.5 Nikes or something. This amount of fan service is pretty normal for gacha games, especially compared to some other stuff one can mention. Nobody really bats an eye at something like that. But, as we saw during the Stellar Blade release, it might be really weird and unusual to see the same kind of fan service and character design outside of gacha games, right? Wrong, because Shift Up was founded by Hyung-tae Kim. Apologies if I completely butcher the name. He is the CEO and chief designer there, and he is pretty famous for his art. First time I heard about him was in the early 2000s, when I saw the box cover art for Magna Carta Tears of Blood game on PS2. I don't have the box anymore, but this is the art. You can notice that the character design is very distinct. Like, something about this art just makes you want to buy and play the game. Like, can't really put my finger on it, but there's something. The protagonist looked super weird though. Too feminine and with naked hips for whatever reason. Why is he like that? Always looks strange to me. Well, that's not the point. The point is, you can look at this art and recognize the future CEO of Shift Up immediately. Other art too, like this girl for example, who, if you look at her in-game model, already kinda looks like Eve. Hyun-tae Kim and his art struck the minds of people again somewhere around 2010s. He was working for NCSoft at the time and was the lead character designer on Blade and Soul, martial arts MMO. And you know what? Even people who weren't going to play it, even people who knew nothing about MMOs, heard about it. Because concept arts for the game pretty much went viral, once again, because of this very distinct and, yes, quite sexy style. Thanks to this art, I know people who never call the game anything other than Blade and Tits, or Ass and Soul, whatever. But hey, it is still good marketing. And you know what? Back then, there was an interview with Hyung-tae Kim, and already there were questions about exaggerated designs that can create unrealistic expectations. So these kind of questions are really nothing new. And at the time he did confirm that yes, it is quite very important. Also, that interview clarified that the Magna Carta protagonist was actually supposed to be awkward and weird. So that was not just me then. Phew, that's a 20 years old question finally answered. Actually, looking at the concept art, you can see that both male and female characters are generally quite exaggerated, just differently. That's just how the guy does his art. Well, after working on Blade and Soul, Hyung-tae Kim left NCSoft and founded his own company, Shift Up. They made gacha games and then released Stellar Blade. So, while this is a new territory for the company, I see it as pretty much a return to global fame for the designer himself. His art style and designs were grabbing people's attention more than 20 years ago, and they grab people's attention now. Shift Up has already announced a new action RPG game, and I personally cannot wait to see how that one will look. Now, this is all great. It's cool to see the artist with a unique style get public attention. But this all contributes to the massive misdirection that pretty much compels you to look at Eve's butt. Yes, if anyone ever tries to shame you for looking at it, you can legit say you were made to watch, and it's totally not your fault. So, what is this misdirection? Well, I already mentioned some of it. The discussion around Eve's assets is one thing. If something is so talked about, that's what people will look at. Same with the fact that this game is from Shift Up, who is, in public's mind, that one company that made gacha about butts. Of course, you would look at the same thing in the next game, just to confirm the quality of what they keep doing, you know. Another point attributing to this is the game's age rating. Stellar Blade is an M-rated game, for mature. If you don't know much about the game, you look at the art, you listen to people, and you assume it's probably M-rated because it's just too sexy. And the game is sexy, but its M rating is mostly due to the brutality of combat and finishers. Pretty much every boss battle ends up with Eve dismembering the opponent in a gory and acrobatic way. As a side note, remember when I mentioned that Hyung-tae Kim exaggerates both male and female form? It actually creates an interesting contrast in his art if you look at those forms together. I think it's the same thing here. And with monsters you don't have to make them look realistic or anything, they can be just as exaggerated as you want. So we get a contrast between Eve, who is straight up gorgeous, and monsters, who are simply grotesque. And in finisher scenes, we get the perfect juxtaposition of sex and violence. Gotta love that design direction. Back to misdirection. Another layer of it is interview with Stellar Blade developers. The man himself pointed out that they pay special attention to Eve's backside. And when we hear that, we all smile because we all know what that means. Cute butt. I mean, I play female characters in third-person games as much as the next guy. I'm thinking about the same thing everyone is thinking when reading this. I will point out though, Eve's body cell is also on her back. So, while everyone is conditioned to think about butts, this interview might as well also hint that body cell designs got a lot of attention too. At least that's what I would like to think. And finally, let's be 100% real here. The biggest misdirection is your own gaze. I am pretty sure there are people who played through the whole game looking at Eve's butt and still have no idea what her eye color is. No shame in that, we are just that simple most of the time. I mean, that's why sex sells. Now, let's assume we all have pierced the veil of misdirection and stopped looking at Eve's butt for 1 minute. I mean, I don't know, I might have just made you stare harder for all I know, but I hope now we can talk about the other design detail. My argument for body cell... Actually, is it the body cell? I don't think the game ever explicitly states how the machinery on Eve's back is called. GameWiki says nothing. Lily fiddles with it and calls it that, so I think that counts. Since machinery on her back sometimes also looks like a spine, it can also be called exospine, as it is the name we get in the game menu. Also, these nodes on her default outfit kinda look like engines, so sometimes I also call them back engines. However we agreed to call it, I am specifically talking about mechanical elements on her outfits that look like part of her body frame. So I have pretty much two main arguments for why it's the most important part of the design. Well, three, but we'll get to that. One point relates to the design itself and another to world building and setting. Starting with the design. I have praised Hyung-tae Kim's art and designs here enough. They are bright, memorable, and unique. Here's the thing though, if you know his work, then Eve's design is not really anything new or special. Let me be perfectly clear, I am not dissing the designs. It's good stuff. But if you take a look, you see all the familiar elements. Poses that exaggerate the legs, arched back shots that can be seen in all the character art, and if you take a look at her default outfit, it's skin tight, which is again pretty standard for Hyung-tae Kim's art, and it has this transparent cape or wing-like extensions. These look futuristic, and I have a headcanon that they work like solar batteries or something. But again, if you look at his old designs, you see a lot of similar wavy attachments on clothes. It's the same thing, just in sci-fi, and I think it originates from the female style in wuxia fiction. You know, these dresses with flowy hems and sleeves. I can't say for sure if that's the actual influence for Hyung-tae Kim, but that's my theory. Not body cells though. I don't think I ever saw anything like that design in Magna Carta or Blade and Soul concept arts. So to me, this is the one really new and original part of the design, which already makes it that much more important. It is the true identifying feature of that particular character. This is what makes her different from all the other girls in all the other drawings. But of course the real meaning to the body cell is provided by the story and world building. This is part of the video with spoilers, by the way. Also, this is the part where I have to say that the game's story and world building are not the strongest. It can be argued that it is the weakest aspect of the game, which includes the development for the three main characters. Actually, hold on, you know who the best character in the whole game is? It's Sue. The guy is risking his life as a sentinel, and he works a second job as a bar owner, just to have a place for his loved one to sing at. And when faced with a choice, he ventures into the most dangerous part of the wasteland just for a chance to find new legs for his waifu, which he manages to do. Do you know anyone else who could say they did that for their waifu? This guy is a true gigachat and a true hero this world needs. But I digress. While I can criticize the world building and the main story, there is one element of it that I really like. During the game, we are led to believe that Eve is a heavily augmented human and that she protects other humans. Early in the game, we find a recording in the archives stating that humans are able to survive extreme conditions due to the body cell. And so, the assumption is that modern humans are heavily augmented by cybernetics, which matches with how some Zion people look. But later in the game it is revealed that no, they are not upgraded humans, they're synthetics, androids, or androidos if we are to use games terms. But they themselves don't even know that they aren't what humans were originally. And so it creates a very deliberate clash between the player's understanding of the word and how it's used in the game. One of the most notable examples is when we fight Karakuri. We can see that it is an amalgamation of several robotic bodies with monster flesh. And later, Lily comments that this Neytiba was probably especially smart due to its merging with several humans. Because, once again, that's what the word means now. That is a sort of a linguistic uncanny valley effect, which I find rather delightful. And once again, it all ties to Eve's design. Her form is that of a perfect human, but also she has these external and clearly visible machine parts, adding a bit of an uncanny reminder of what she really is. That combination of details perfectly symbolizes her being a human, as the word is used in the game setting now. And that's pretty much why I believe the body cell is the most important part of Eve's design. It is unique and specific to this game, and it makes a lot of sense within the setting as an explicit reminder of who the character is. These are objective reasons to support my argument. There's also a third one, of course, and that is the fact that these things are just so goddamn sexy. I mean, just look at them. Look at these delicious engine parts. Check the metal ridges, observe the properly managed cables, catch the surface shine and gleam. If you do not find this straight up erotic, I really do not know what is wrong with all of you. But, of course, this reason is slightly less objective than the other two, I recognize that, and so I will just leave it as a minor argument, which is still valid though. Anyways, that's my take on Eve's design and what's really important about it. I figure I have taken long enough already, but do write in the comments if you'd like me to try and make a tier list for body cells as maybe a separate video. Also, let me know what you like about Eve's design or Stellar Blade designs in general. After all, even if you don't like body cells that much, the most important thing is to know what you like and appreciate things for it.